Missouri emerged from the Civil War a deeply scarred state. Its unique position as a border state meant it endured internal strife and guerrilla warfare long before and after official hostilities ceased. The conflict left a legacy of division, economic devastation, and profound social upheaval. The war's end in 1865 did not bring immediate peace or unity. Instead, Missouri faced the daunting task of rebuilding its infrastructure and its fractured society. The state was a battleground of ideologies, with former Unionists and Confederates vying for control. The immediate post-war years saw radical Unionists dominate Missouri's political landscape. They sought to punish former Confederates and secure the gains of emancipation. This era was marked by intense political polarization and legislative action. The 1865 Drake Constitution exemplified this radical agenda. It disenfranchised thousands of former Confederates and their sympathizers, effectively barring them from political participation. This move aimed to consolidate Unionist power and prevent a resurgence of secessionist influence. However, such stringent measures soon sparked a backlash. Many moderate Unionists and disaffected Democrats began to challenge the radical Republicans' authority. The political climate remained volatile, with elections often contested fiercely. By the early 1870s, a liberal Republican movement gained traction, advocating for universal male suffrage and reconciliation. This shift ultimately led to the dismantling of many radical policies. The state began a slow, often painful process of political reintegration. Emancipation fundamentally reshaped Missouri's social fabric. Nearly 115,000 enslaved people gained their freedom, creating new communities and aspirations. African Americans began to establish churches, schools, and benevolent societies. Yet freedom did not equate to equality. Racial discrimination and violence persisted, particularly in rural areas. Black codes, though less severe than in former Confederate states, still limited opportunities and rights for African Americans. Many formerly enslaved people migrated to urban centers like St. Louis and Kansas City, seeking work and safety. These cities became hubs for burgeoning African American communities, fostering cultural and economic development. However, segregation remained a pervasive reality. The social landscape also saw the return of Confederate veterans, often resentful and dispossessed. Their reintegration into society was fraught with tension, contributing to a climate of lingering animosity and occasional violence. Secret societies, like the Ku Klux Klan, briefly emerged, though their influence was less pronounced than in the Deep South. Missouri's economy, heavily reliant on agriculture and river trade before the war, underwent significant transformation. The devastation of farms and infrastructure necessitated a massive rebuilding effort. Farmers struggled with labor shortages and market disruptions. Railroad expansion became the primary engine of economic growth. Lines crisscrossed the state, connecting agricultural regions to burgeoning urban markets and national networks. This infrastructure boom facilitated the movement of goods, people, and capital. St. Louis and Kansas City emerged as major economic powerhouses. St. Louis solidified its position as a manufacturing and commercial hub, while Kansas City grew rapidly as a livestock and meatpacking center. These cities attracted waves of immigrants and internal migrants. New industries, including mining, timber, and manufacturing, diversified the state's economy. Missouri's rich natural resources, particularly lead and coal, were increasingly exploited. This period laid the groundwork for Missouri's industrial future. As the radical Republican influence waned, the Democratic Party regained dominance in Missouri politics. This resurgence was led by conservative Bourbon Democrats, many of whom were former Confederates or their sympathizers. They championed fiscal conservatism and limited government. This political shift often meant a rollback of progressive policies and a reinforcement of racial hierarchies. While not as extreme as in the Deep South, Missouri's Democratic leadership generally upheld segregation and limited African American political participation. The Lost Cause narrative, romanticizing the Confederacy, found fertile ground in some parts of the state. The late 19th century brought new challenges, including labor unrest and the rise of populism. industrial growth led to the formation of labor unions, which often clashed with powerful corporations over wages and working conditions. Strikes became increasingly common. The populist movement, advocating for farmers and working-class citizens, gained significant support in Missouri. It challenged the established political and economic order, pushing for reforms like railroad regulation and monetary policy changes. Though short-lived as a national party, its ideas influenced future progressive movements. Despite these struggles, Missouri also saw progress in education and public services. New schools and universities were established, and efforts were made to improve public health. The foundations of modern state institutions were firmly laid during this dynamic period. Missouri's post-Civil War era, from 1865 through the late 19th century, was a period of profound and often turbulent transformation. It was a time when the state grappled with the legacies of slavery and war, forging a new identity amidst political upheaval, social change, and economic expansion. The decisions and developments of these decades irrevocably shaped the Missouri we know today.